Okay. So thank you so much for having me here today. My talk is titled The Influence of Cultural Background and Early Linguistic Experience on Language Development. Um, I'm hoping to show you the ways that children's language development varies cross-culturally and cross-linguistically. So starting with the talk overview, just to give you a sense of what we'll go through today. First, I'm going to just cover and give you an overview of the variability that exists in language development. And then I'm going to be showing you previous research and or my own that shows the cross-cultural differences in monolingual parent-child communication. And particularly for my study, I have compared Thai and American parent-child communication. And then we'll turn to look at the cross-linguistic differences in bilingual parent-child communication. So in this case, I focused on Thai English bilingual families, and I will be showing you the differences in the ways that they communicate in Thai versus English. And then lastly, I will end with just talking about the scientific contributions of this work. So I'd like to start with showing you this infographic, which shows that there are over 7,000 languages spoken in the world today. And, this sort of shows you the variability and heterogeneity that exists in the world. And yet, um, research on language acquisition is still skewed towards the weird, which stands for white, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic, as well as English speaking monolingual populations. And so, if what we know about language acquisition is based primarily on one out of over 7,000 languages, then it's quite worrying, right? So, can we really say for certain that what we know about language development is accurate? So, my research program aims to contribute to expanding our knowledge and providing a better understanding of what language development looks like in non weird and bilingual populations. So, when we think of language, we typically think of it as a social tool that is sort of integral in allowing us to communicate with one another. But that's not the only um, purpose or the only use of language. So, language is also can be a social tool that allows for the transmission of cultural practices and traditions. So, when interacting with adults, children not only acquire the linguistic competence, but they also acquire social competence. So, they learn ways to interact with other people. And the linguistic input that children receive is typically not homogeneous. A child may receive varying amounts of linguistic input from their parents, grandparents, nannies, siblings. And there's also variability in the number of languages that they're exposed to, as well as the cultural background of their conversation partners, and including also the type of activities in which they are receiving linguistic input. So, my program of research aims to examine these sources of variability in language development. So I'm going to be showing you first the sort of the cross-cultural differences that have been found in monolingual parent-child communication. When comparing parents, particularly mothers from different cultures, we found that it has been found that mothers tend to have different conversation styles depending on their cultural background. So starting here, we can see that for the typically Western group, which has been mostly examined or focused on European Americans and Anglo-Australians, research has found that they tend to adopt this high elaborative style. So they have longer conversations, they tend to elaborate on previous questions, and mothers will use evaluation and feedback to sort of encourage child participation in these kinds of conversations. But on the other hand, Asian mothers And this has typically been focused on Chinese, South Korean, Japanese, and Thai mothers have been found to adopt this low elaborative style. And what this means is their conversations tend to be more succinct and they tend to repeat questions that they already asked or ask questions to repeat, ask children to repeat what they already said. So you can see these two distinct conversation styles in the ways that moms support their child's language. And so now that we've seen these two dichotomies of conversation styles, I'm just going to now talk about the rationale for focusing on Thai and American cultures. So, in terms of the general cultural norm, as a collectivist culture, Thai culture emphasizes interconnectedness and relationship with other people. So, one of the primary values is filial piety, which is the belief that children must respect, obey, and defer to their parents and those who are older than them, right? So this is a core value, and this means that typically interactions in Thai culture tend to be adult-centered. And there is also this age-based hierarchy among social members, which is characteristic of high-power distance cultures. On the other hand, as an individualistic culture, the European American culture promotes independence and autonomy. Interactions are typically more child-centered. Young children are often treated as intentional agents capable of making their own decisions. And so, in contrast to Thai culture, where there's a clear social hierarchy, European American children are often treated by their parents as equals. So, and this is typically common in a low power distance society. So, because of these distinct cultural norms and the fact that Thai and English are associated with these distinct cultural norms, focusing on Thai and American, particularly those who speak Thai and English, as well as bilinguals who speak both languages, can allow us to examine potential sort of different communication styles in each language. And so this leads me to my research questions. First, I asked, do mothers communicate with their preschool children differently across cultures and languages? So again, when comparing the monolingual mothers from the two cultures, I focus on the cross-cultural comparison between Thai and American mothers. And then also comparing bilingual mothers across their two languages. So those who speak Thai and English, comparing them within themselves. When speaking in Thai and English, do they exhibit different communication styles? And we asked the same thing of the children. So again, comparing monolingual children across two cultures and comparing bilingual children across their two languages. And then my research program also asks, what is the relationship between maternal and child patterns of conversation? So now I'm going to show you the participant profiles. There are a lot of numbers here, so I'm just going to highlight the important information. So as you can see, the monolinguals are from Thailand and United States. For the purpose of this talk, the bilinguals come from Thailand. So they are families who reside in Thailand but speak both languages. As you can see on the mean age here, children are on average 4 years old. So they're in preschool. And for both the moms and the children who are bilingual, we made sure to recruit those who are exposed, have substantial exposure to both languages, so at least 20% in one of their languages. And then we also made sure that they have relatively high proficiency in both languages. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about what I have these families do in my study. So in terms of the procedures, the monolingual families participated in 1 session, bilinguals participated in 2 sessions. What happens is I video record their interactions, and for the bilinguals, they in the first session they'll come in or I'll go into their homes and they do all these activities in one of their languages, and then 2 weeks later they do the same activities again, but in the different language. So this is sort of an example of what that might look like. So we counterbalance the order of language. And they go through these 4 tasks. The first 3 tasks are between the moms and the children. So they engage in prompted reminiscing, book sharing, and toy play. And then in the last task, I, as the experimenter, interview the child and ask them about their personal experiences. And so families always went through the activities in this order. And once we have the video recordings, we come back and transcribe and code for different linguistic measures. So this is just an example of what this might look like. So here I will actually play this clip and hopefully you can hear.
Lily. Jenny.
No.
Rachel.
Okay.
Okay.
Taggy.
So you can see here that in this right now in this short clip, they're interacting with this book. And the child asked for the mom to name the character, right? So when she says you name him, that's seen as a command or a direct action request. So that's what we coded it as. And then the mom started giving name options and the child just seems to not really like the options that the mom has provided. So here, every time she says no, she's sort of giving this negative feedback to her mom. And then so she got frustrated and she's like, okay, I'll pick the name myself. So that's where the mom says, okay. And that is a way to affirm the other person's utterance, right? So that we code it up as an affirmation. And we do this throughout the transcripts. And these are just only a few of the linguistic measures that we looked at. You'll see more as I present the data. So that's just to give you a taste of what this process looks like. And so now I'm going to show you the cross-cultural comparison. So looking at the monolingual dyads. In this first task, the prompted reminiscing task, this task was designed to capture the process of discussing autobiographical memories. So specifically, moms are asked to help the child remember and talk about their own experiences. In this task, they were given these a set of 11 word prompts. Monolinguals received only one set, bilinguals received both sets. So I'm going to show you the data now. So building on previous work, we saw similarly that the 2 cultural groups show this dichotomy of low versus high elaborative style. And here I'm just highlighting two examples that were observed. So specifically, to give you a better idea, this is what an excerpt might look like that's representative of these linguistic measures. As you can see, for the Thai dyad, moms tended to use a lot of requests for repetition. So when the child was discussing his favorite meal, he was talking about not liking fish, and then the mom just sort of simply asks for the child to repeat himself. So this is characteristic of the low elaborative style where moms may not be necessarily asking for new information. But then on the other hand, when we look at the American interaction, we see that when they were recalling this event of playing in the yard, the child says that they were playing tag, and the mom says, yeah, we play tag in the yard and sometimes soccer. So she takes what the child said and then add new information, right? And this is an example of an extension. And this is characteristic of the high elaborative style where the mom models this sort of way of adding new information and elaborating on what has already been said. And then in the second task, the book sharing task, in this task, we gave them, the mothers and children, wordless picture books. So these picture books essentially do not have any words in them. And so when the parents and children are asked to go through the book, they simply see the images on the page and they have to tell a story based on the images, and this sort of gives us the ability or allows us to look at differences and variability in how people tell stories because they're not bound to any sort of text on the page. In this task, we also saw these two distinct styles of interacting. So we saw that for the Thai group, there tend to be this storyteller style. So if you look at the transcript here, you'll see that it's primarily the mom who's speaking. She is also doing a lot of attention directing. So she's saying, look, why is he looking for the frog? And look, so she's always trying to direct the child's attention and tell the story as the narrator. On the other hand, American dyads tend to adopt this story builder style. So you'll see here that the child is contributing to the story, and the mom is affirming the child when they contribute to the story. So saying yes, and repeating and then saying yeah. So these are ways that are common in dyadic interactions where moms use affirmations to encourage child participation. So you see here the different roles that mothers and children take in these kinds of interactions, showing which also mirror and is in line with cultural norms of being sort of more adult-centered versus child-centered. And the third task, this is a less structured task. So for the toy play task, we give them these farm animal figures, and they are basically given the freedom to play with them as they would like for as long as they want. So yeah, essentially they have a lot of freedom in terms of what they wanted to do with the toys. And for this task, we also saw different communication styles. Again, similar to the previous task, we see this sort of adult-centered versus child-centered styles, where in the Thai dyadic interaction, we see that the moms are sort of leading the task. They typically do a lot of labeling, so they label the toy pieces, and what that happens is the child will tend to repeat what the moms said. So this is a way of sort of learning by repeating, and basically the moms are the ones taking charge and showing examples. On the other hand, for the American group, you'll see that the child actually talks back a little bit, so they give these negative feedback to their parents when interacting with the toys. So they sort of give their opinions, and they get a say in terms of how they want the toy play interaction to go. So you see these distinct conversation styles in this task as well. So to sum up, these are the cross-cultural differences that we found in the two groups. So Thai dyads tend to adopt low elaborative, storyteller, and adult-centered styles. And on the other hand, American dyads tended to adopt high elaborative, story builder, and child-centered styles. So now that we saw these cross-cultural differences in the ways that they interact, it leads me to wonder, if someone who is bilingual, who speaks two languages associated with two distinct cultural norms, do they interact differently in each of their languages? And this is exactly what we set out to look at. And the sort of theory or idea that we sort of draw from is this idea of cultural frame switching, right? And it's the idea that a certain stimuli, or there's this multiple ways that something that can cue cultural frames. So one of them being language. So this has been done in various different groups, both in bilingual adults, bilingual school-age children, as well as bilingual mother-toddler dyads. And essentially, they found that when speaking in one language, typically the common thread here is English, a language that's associated with more individualistic cultures. Adults and children tend to either produce more high elaborative conversations, or they tend to recall memories about themselves and have these memories be sort of centered and focus on themselves as the main agent or the main character of these stories. And then on the other hand, whether it was Russian, Chinese, or Spanish, these languages that were associated with relatively more collectivistic cultures, they found that the same people will tell different stories. So they may now adopt a more other focus conversation styles where they remember things and they think about other people and mention their social relationships more so than when they spoke in English. So with these previous findings, they suggest that language can activate associated cultural norms even in young children, so in school-age children. But this, it's kind of unclear whether these language-specific discourse patterns emerge in different communicative contexts and whether they emerge as young, as early as preschool. So now I'm going to show you the data for the cross-linguistic comparison. Again, starting with the prompted reminiscing task. To reiterate the bilingual diads now, they receive both sets of words. And so they would either receive set one in one language, and then in the next session, they will switch to set two. So starting with this example of bilingual mothers' use of direct action requests. So when speaking in, so mothers basically were shown to use more action requests or commands when speaking in Thai compared to English. And so you can see an example here where when they're talking about personal memories or past events, moms are telling the child what to do. And they're sort of asking the child to recall and also give them instructions in terms of sort of behavioral conduct. And strikingly, when we look at the children, we see this opposite pattern where children tend to use more commands or direct action requests when speaking in English compared to Thai. So now you'll see that this is just a funny example of when the mom was laughing at the child and she's telling the mom to stop laughing at her. So we see this very sort of stark contrast, right? Where when speaking in Thai, mom seems to be the one to sort of do the directing and giving the commands. But then when speaking in English, children feel sort of more comfortable and they feel like they can tell the moms what they would like the moms to do. So that's very interesting. And then we also see this greater use of negative feedback in English as well. So when interacting, children were more likely to sort of, again, push back and tell the moms that, if the mom was saying that, oh, what did you have at the picnic? The child would sort of disagree and say, well, we didn't have a picnic. And also sort of maybe correcting the mom in terms of whose class this memory or this event happened in. So then when we turn to the next task, the book sharing task, we also see distinct conversation styles, which actually sort of mirror the monolingual cross-cultural styles. So when interacting with the book, you'll see here that the moms would affirm when the child participated and contributed to the story. So if the child saying he jumped away, the mom would say, oh, yeah. So that's a way to sort of encourage and tell the child that, yes, I agree and this is correct. And so that's a way to really get the child to contribute. And interestingly, the children also do this. So when they speak English, they tend to use more affirmations than when they spoke in Thai. And so not only is the mother encouraging the child to participate, the child feels the sort of the freedom or the ability, they have the ability to sort of tell the moms what they think when they agree. And they also feel like they are able to let them know when they disagree. So this is the example at the top of the talk, where again, the child is expressing her disagreement in terms of the name of the character when speaking in English. For the last task, the toy play task, we also saw that this sort of adult-centered style when speaking in Thai and child-centered style when speaking in English. So here the mom is sort of basically telling the child how she thinks the toy play task should go. So she's telling the child to take care of the cow and to tell her what she wants to do, what he wants to do. But in contrast, when during the English session, you'll see that the children tended to be the ones to tell the moms what to do and to take charge. And this is actually an example from the same diet. So it's actually even more interesting to see the child taking this role where in this English session, which was the role of the mom in the Thai session. We found that bilingual children tended to repeat the moms more when speaking in Thai. So again, adult-centered, right? So the moms labeled the toys and the child repeated what the mom said. And on the other hand, when speaking in English, they, again, similarly to the book sharing task, they were able to, they affirmed what the mom said. And so they gave moms feedback when speaking in English, more so than when they were speaking in Thai. So to summarize what I've just shown you, so these are the sort of cross-linguistic differences in bilingual conversation styles. So when speaking Thai, mothers adopted low elaborative, adult-centered styles where they fostered interdependence and deference, and they also corrected child mistakes. When speaking in Thai, as a result, children took on a more passive role. They listened and repeated what the moms said. On the other hand, sorry, my cursor is not working for some reason. Okay, there we go. When speaking English, mothers adopted a high elaborative and child-centered style. So they fostered independence and autonomy and encouraged child participation. And so when speaking English, children took on a more active role and provided their own contributions and evaluative feedback. So I'm going to end with the scientific contributions. Theoretically, this work basically contributes to understanding language development in bilingual children, showing that they may exhibit different communicative patterns in each of their languages, and also provides further evidence for cultural frame switching. In terms of practical implications, these findings can also inform decisions that healthcare professionals, speech-language pathologists, and educators make when serving diverse groups, including bilingual children. And with that, I'd like to end. Thank you for listening, and also a big thank you to all the families who participated, friends and colleagues and mentors at Northwestern, and also my funding sources at NIH and Northwestern. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that really enlightening talk. If there are any questions in the audience, we'll take them right now.
I have a question.
Yes.
How did the children perceive their mother's knowledge of each of these languages? Like, I am more convinced that my mom is better at her mother tongue, which is my mother tongue, compared to English, let's say. So is there any, are they equally frequent in hearing their mother speak both the languages, or do they often hear only the mother tongue?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a bit of a variability in our sample, but we made sure that there's at least 20% exposure from the parents' part to the children. So some diets will hear less English and some diets will hear more, but on average, we made sure that they spoke both languages. And I don't have the data in terms of what the children perceive, their children's perception of their mother's abilities, but objectively, we do see this where the difference where children tend to be more balanced in both their languages, but the mothers tended to definitely be more proficient in Thai, which is their mother tongue. So yeah, there is this difference. Thank you.
Is there anyone else with a question? All right, then if anybody else has a question, maybe they can email you personally. Thank
Okay,
you
I
so
think,
much.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for your talk, Dr.